Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology, and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com.
Hello and welcome to SciTech Culture. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. How are we today, Steve? It has been quite a while, but it's good to be back into it.
Well, that's right. You've been off enjoying yourself away while I've been still here by myself enjoying a bit of me time.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to take a holiday at some point, I guess. Maybe it's a holiday from the podcast, but no, we're back and we're not going to go anywhere anytime soon. So we're going to just punch through a real quick topic today, and it's about the film Joker, which has been I guess a bit of a surprise packet in many ways. I don't think in the lead up to the film most people knew what to do with it or how to conceive it or how to feel about it, I guess, because it's a little bit of an odd, like even me when I started seeing like the first previews of it or I'd first heard about it, it seemed a bit off the wall even for a comic book film, which the film is clearly showing a person and I guess the society he's living in that is really really screwed. You're not going to walk out of this film feeling good about anything really, but
Another spoiler.
Yeah, that's right. But the thing that was amazing to me when I did go to watch it is that just from a I guess a film fan perspective, it was really old school in the sense that it just hit those intellectual and creative buttons that I used to love from the films that I grew up with. There's a lot of comparisons to The King of Comedy and Taxi Driver and the films of the 70s, although I think that's a little unfair because it's still different enough from that. And like I find that the first point that is considered like such an amazing thing and it stands out so much that it did it. It tells you a lot about the state of the film industry right now. But then there was also the subsequent backlash or supposed backlash and reaction to the film that perhaps what the film is portraying is irresponsible in an environment where you've got, particularly in America, a lot of lone wolf gunmen going around, shooting up lots of people. Because what is depicted in this film is essentially, this guy, he's, you got a guy that is, mentally ill. He's trying hard to, make a better life for himself, but everything is just going against him. And the film is really just a systematic watching of this guy cop one worse thing after one worse thing after one worse thing until eventually he just snaps. And the whole thing is an indictment on the society that we live in, that it pushed someone like that to that point. So you consider that, for a character like the Joker, who's like the ultimate bad guy and nasty and whatever, you feel I can understand why he became that. And I don't know if any of those ideas and all that sort of thing, I found that very intellectually engaging, and I found I was thinking about it a lot afterwards. So I don't know. What do you think about that, Steve? Like that juxtaposition between that and the reaction that it's had.
I haven't seen the film, but on the description you just gave it, I like the sound of that. I'm going to have to go and watch it. But, I don't know how much of this we attribute to modern sort of social commentary. You mentioned Taxi Driver. Jodie Foster blamed herself for the Reagan assassination attempt. Which was apparently motivated by a taxi driver. Some of what you said or described there in Joker sounds a lot like Falling Down with Michael Douglas. Now, if Falling Down came out again today, would that, receive the same sort of criticism? You've got movies, littered along the whole way to the present day. Man Bites Dog, probably even a lot of the Tarantino violence, that could be argued just glorified and sort of, made the world we see today and the ugly things in the world we see today acceptable. So is this just another one of those films and now everyone can be outraged and aggrieved by the subject matter? Or is it as it sounds from listening to you, a very intelligent film that maybe oversteps the mark, but also gives us an insight into the psyche, not just the Joker, but maybe, the modern urbanized Western human who, has a grievance and takes it too far.
But isn't that like the, well, I guess the traditional purpose of film and / art, or whatever you want to call it? Film doesn't do a lot of it these days, but when it does do it, the whole point is it's making a statement or a reflection of anything that is going on in the real world at large, and offering the chance for you to have a moment of pause to think about it and consider what it's trying to say, so that you can sort of reflect. And to me, that's when films do their best work, is when they do that sort of thing. But I also wonder, though, is there something different going on in the society now when you get a film like this being described as incel friendly? That there's a culture out there that is more primed to be inspired by what's going on in a film like this, as opposed to what was there before? Or is it that we identify or have categorized these, this sort of I guess, for lack of a better term, like nastiness that's out there, because it's got more of a voice than what it did in the past, in whatever way, shape or form?
Well, it sounds to me like you summed it up. Here we have a comic book story, but we have a psychological exploration of that story that made sense to you.
Yeah.
That's got to be unsettling.
Yeah.
Because it's fiction. And yet there's a whole generation out there of people who apparently, according to the social commentary, identify with a fictional comic book character, and therefore, are basically influenced by fiction and can't tell the difference between fiction and reality. And, that's sobering. And that, in a lot of ways, when you live in a post-truth world and, where facts don't matter, or you choose the facts you want to believe in, that, I think, says more about a society as where we're at. Should you show films like this? Well, A Clockwork Orange is another example where people were worried at the time that people would just copy what they saw. Has a very powerful message. Maybe you can comment on that regarding the Joker, but, it's hard. On one hand, you have to be very, very cautious with these films, but on the other, if they reflect the truth, then we really need to pay attention. You can't put violence back in the bottle now. It's become mainstream. You can't put a lot of the abhorrent fantasies that exist out there in the real world back in the bottle, because they're out there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I certainly, not having seen the film, sort of sit on the fence, but what can you do?
But it also comes back down to how, as an individual, you receive it. So I go into something like that, for instance, wanting to be engaged intellectually or whatever with whatever ideas are presented. It doesn't mean that I'm going to then go out afterwards and put clown makeup on and pick up a gun and start shooting people. But that's not to say that if the right type of person in that frame of mind could go and do that, because there's that example from a couple of years ago when The Dark Knight Rises opened, and there was a guy that did that at a screening of the film, and basically put a cloud over the whole thing. And it was actually raised again that what happens if something like that happens with this film, and it's hard. Like, for me, I just think it would be a waste that a film like this couldn't be put out there to say something.
Yeah, well,
off the back of what someone might potentially do or not do.
Well, once again, you look over the history, all the films that we've mentioned already. Maybe Taxi Driver is the exception, where someone actually apparently went out and acted on the film, or that was mainstream media. The Dirty Harry movies, once again, and the violence in there. Mainstream media portrayed it, but I guess there wasn't the avenue then for somebody who's a little bit, motivated by the film in in a negative manner to connect with another 100 people just like themselves and talk themselves into a frenzy, and then all it takes is one of them really just to lose the plot. So I think I don't think you can blame the film.
No.
And I don't think you can really censor these films anymore, because these people are out there talking about it. And, just because you don't see it in the cinema doesn't mean it's not happening in somebody's mind. And that's unfortunately the sad place where we're inhabiting today.
Yeah, absolutely. Just finally, about the film itself, it is an amazing piece of work, and I think it's brave in this, I guess, cinematic landscape for a film to be its entire selling point coming down to one actor's performance. It kind of reminds you of how the Hannibal Lecter thing, or where he monopolizes it and becomes the selling point as opposed to a bunch of CGI shots, or even going back just to the previous time the Joker was on the big screen with Heath Ledger and what he did with it, just to the amazing work that was done with that. It's like it's a character that inspires actors to do their best stuff, because they've had good actors play that character in the past. And I remember, I think it was Todd Phillips, the director, or one of the directors of one of the Batman films, I can't remember exactly, he said that maybe this is like Shakespeare. You get just different actors taking on this character again and again and again, in different variations. And the thing that really, where I was suspect about this film was, well, how is it going to be different enough? And in the end, this film is a completely different interpretation to everything that's come before. So you're getting a brand new experience, yet you're still getting the Joker experience. So if there's nothing else that they didn't do or, didn't succeed at, that's something they did really well. And hopefully they get recognised for it, because I understand that the Academy is apparently up in arms. They're all split down the middle as to whether or not they're going to be voting for it next year at the Oscars, whether it should deserve Best Film, because, comic book films, we can't have them as getting voted in.
Well, I think you've given it a good rap, Ben. So, I think let's just take the social commentary as social commentary and concentrate on the strength of the filmmaking.
Yeah, absolutely. Good place to wrap up too. Alrighty, so don't forget our website, scitechculture.com. You can get all of our links and content there. You can subscribe to our RSS feeds, YouTube, Vimeo, etc. And you can have a look at our blogs on our website, and we greatly appreciate your visit. Alright, so that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.